Welcome to Diecast Restos. I'm Jason, and this time I'm refurbishing a SIKU Lamborghini Espada which is in need of some loving. The V317 400 GT Espada was made by the German model maker between 1971 and 1981. Despite its long life, not many made it here to the UK without the garish lime green tinted windows. Limited in my options, I will attempt to lean into them with my custom by using shades which kind of complement it. Here's a fresher example, while this is the car it recreates. I'll be going gold in my colour choice today, though SIKU did offer this themselves. I'll be using Creative 164's Lamborghini Miura wheels on this one, though I foresee issues with the size of that rear tyre. We'll see what we can do about that. I quickly set about getting the wheels primed, as I needed to borrow 4 of the 8 knockoffs supplied for my Ford GT90 project from a couple of weeks back. SIKU introduced their Espada model in 1971. Originally, it had SIKU's solid black plastic wheels that had no print in them, a red plastic interior piece, and crucially, a transparency free of glowing nuclear waste coloured tint. Between 1971 and 1974, these could be found with bodies in a pastel blue or a darker blue metallic shade. In 1973, it was modified to become a fire hunter. This version was adorned with Sicherheit Feuerschutzrendienst tampos to the front, which translates to Security Fire Protection Racing Service. Perhaps this V12 powered Grand Tourer was meant to be a racetrack rapid response fire marshal's car. Fire hunter tampos were affixed to the opening doors. In addition to its lengthy wording was a bright orange livery, a blue beacon poking out of the rear of the roof, what I assume are metal water cannons also on the roof, as well as horns or sirens on the outer flanks of the hood, plus a yellow interior and the first appearance of that gaudy green windscreen. The wheels were swapped to a printed multi-spoke style in 1975, as it continued in this fashion for a further 2 years. Then in 1979, SIKU reverted the casting to its original form without all of the bells and whistles of the Fire Hunter. It was available in the lime green metallic or gold metallic body colours, both of which had the green tinted transparency and a red interior. Production ended in 1981. A couple of variations were produced under license in Hungary between 1984 and 1987 by Mecci Toys. There was a metallic blue model which looked similar to the initial SIKU batch, just with the later wheels and a white interior. Another turquoise version was produced, which had a black painted base instead of the normal metal plated type. While the castings were marked up as Lamborghini 400 GT Espada, the actual Espada was never officially referred to as such. What it did do, however, was utilise many of the components from its predecessor, the 400 GT 2+2. It used a semi-monocoque unibody constructed by Marchesi of Modena, from where bare chassis was shipped to Bertone. Here, bodywork, paint and trim would be added. Its design was penned by Marcelo Gandini at Bertone, taking inspiration from 2 of his 1967 show cars, the Bertone Pirana and the Lamborghini Marzal. The latter I restored a matchbox model of a little while back, and I'll link to that here. It was launched in 1968 alongside the Islero to succeed the 400 GT. It was unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show. Alongside the similarly front-engined Islero, the Espada was sold simultaneously with the rear mid-engined Miura sports car. That's another I've worked on in the past. The name Espada is Spanish for sword, specifically the type a bullfighter uses to kill a bull. The first edition of the car, dubbed the S1, came with the 3.9 litre Lamborghini V12 derived from the 400 GT, which produced 325 horsepower. Its design was heavily influenced by the Marzal, particularly the interior, while it borrowed the same Campagnolo alloy wheels from the Miura, complete with knockoffs. The taillights were taken straight from the Fiat 124 Sport Coupe. It had twin fuel tanks with each filler hidden behind the black cosmetic grills on the C-pillars. At the 1970 Brussels Motor Show, Lamborghini unveiled the S2 Espada. 186 S1s had been made up until this point. Externally, the only difference was the removal of the grille strakes covering the vertical rear glass tail panel. This omission leads me to believe that the SIKU model, which includes these strakes, is based on an S1. The S2 had a solid pane of glass. Inside, however, the differences were more stark. It had an all-new dashboard, centre console and steering wheel, all of which were more conventional than that of the concept-inspired S1. There was improved ventilation for the rear passengers, along with a revised central armrest. Power output was up to 350 horsepower thanks to a higher compression ratio, while its stopping power was improved with vented discs. 575 would be built until 1972, when the S3 arrived. Again, a new interior was on the cards, now treated to aluminium trim in favour of wood. On the outside, there were changes to the grille mesh, which was now rectangular rather than hexagonal, and the taillights were now taken from an Alfa Romeo 1750 Berlina. The Campagnolo knockoff wheels were replaced with a new 5-stud alloy. The Campagnolos are much prettier in my opinion, even at 1:64 scale. Power would remain at 350 horsepower on the S3, but power steering and air conditioning were now standard. A sunroof was optional, while a 3-speed Chrysler Torque-Lite automatic transmission later became an option in 1974 over the typical Lamborghini 5-speed manual. From 1975, US imports had to have the mandatory large safety bumpers fitted in place of the more delicate chrome ones. Production of the Espada would end in 1978 as the company entered receivership. With 1,217 built, there would be no direct replacement for the Espada. Among the cars produced was the 1968 Lankomatic prototype, which was fitted with hydro-pneumatic self-leveling rear suspension to rival a similar arrangement in the Ferrari 365 GT 2+2. It would never enter production and remained a one-off. Another one-off was the Faena, a 4-door car based on a Series 2 Espada. It was built by coach builder Pietro Frua and was debuted at the 1978 Turin Motor Show. Frua took a 1974 S2 and extended its wheelbase by 18 cm in order to fit in the rear doors. The car was finished in new bodywork that took the tail lights from a Citroën SM, and the interior was finished in white leather. Its weight crept to almost 2 tons thanks to the added rear doors. After it was exhibited at the 1980 Geneva Motor Show, it was sold by a Lamborghini dealer in Basel and remains in the collection of a Swiss owner. I wanted this rear vertical panel to have a more glass-like appearance. After all, this feature with its strakes is what sets it out as being an S1 Espada. So I first coated the area in Molotow Chrome to be nice and reflective, and then I applied Citadel Gloss Nuln Oil for shading. Now I'm adding on Ammo Wet effects to complete the look. Here then were all of the parts that make up the SIKU Lamborghini Espada. First up is the transparency. You'll have to tell me if you think that I could have done anything more other than replace the entire piece to get it to suit. It has very much defined this build, and I've tried to ease the visual disturbance with a simple matte black interior. And you may have noticed the thin rubber on the rear wheels. This was the only way they would fit into the tight, very inboard arch. I had little option here, as the interior piece would have needed cutting into to accept a bigger tyre. But anyway, here was how the SIKU Espada looked before. I do think that the vibrant green body is the better colour for diverting attention from that horrible green transparency, even more so than the gold I chose for this car's final colour. I like my full customs to be stark differences, so it is rare that I choose to have a custom colour similar to the existing paint. But here is how the Espada turned out. The gold definitely suits this car, and it also goes some way to quelling the transparency's vibrancy. These Campagnolo wheels look excellent on it though, despite having to use some very thin rubber on the rear to get them to fit. I've tried to get that vertical glass panel looking more realistic, while inside I've painted the interior a subtle matte black. It isn't my finest work, but as I always do on this channel, I upload everything that I work on, good or bad, because I can learn so much purely from your feedback. As such, let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments. I haven't done it in a while, but a big shout out to my channel supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships. You can join up too to keep the channel ticking and get a few added perks along the way. Also, be sure that you're subscribed, but all that leaves me to say is thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.